I'm going to show you my play-by-play spotting chart and the process that I've used to really streamline how all the information gets updated. And this all started in basketball, and I started with Excel and using Excel to grab data from the NCAA stats database and pull it in and present it nicely. After Excel, I moved that process to Google Sheets and added all kinds of more data and information, and it was all pulling in automatically. And as I added more, Google Sheets just kind of slowed down, and it didn't allow me to really be confident in the process. And so as we moved into the spring season for women's lacrosse, I developed a kind of a hybrid approach where I'm using some Python scripts to grab all the data and push those into a Google Sheet, where I then can make it look pretty and print it out and all that. So let me dive in. So here is my spotting sheet, and we will look a little bit more of this in detail once I've shown you the process. But let's get things started. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do when I update a Google Sheet or the data for in this Google Sheet is to add the roster information. Now, we need to add roster information into our PA script Google Sheet. And since it's already getting entered in there, I don't want to duplicate tasks, so it's there. And so I'm pulling the information in my play-by-play calling sheet from our public address script sheet. And so let's just do that. And so here's the old roster from the previous opponent, and I can delete that. And we're actually playing Whitworth today, and so I'm going to use that as an example. We're at Whitworth, but we'll pretend we're home. And so I'm going to go to their website, and I'm going to grab their data from their roster, because it's so much easier to do than dealing with a Word document. So I'm just going to copy that in. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste that in. Values only. And now they also sent me some pronunciations, so I'm going to add those into there as well. And there we go. Now that data is there for our our PA announcers, and it will automatically pull in to my spotting chart. So once that's done, I'm going to come into this little Python program that I ran, and I'm going to run it. And what it's going to do, it's going to prompt me whether I want to update the home information or the away. And I've already done home. I've selected us as home and done that. So I'm going to select one for away. And then it's going to ask me which team I want to select. And we are playing Whitworth, so we're going to enter 12 for Whitworth. And so now what this is going to do is it's running a bunch of Python scripts that are going to various places on the NCAA stats database to get all the information, coaches information, and career stats and season stats. And you can see right now it's going through and is going through each member of the roster and going and getting that particular person's season and career stats, and it's all compiling it. And once it's done compiling it, we'll push it back up into the Google Sheet. The other thing it will do is it will grab conference information, so conference standings and upcoming conference schedules. And the way this all works really is it's contingent on two things: the stats being in the NCAA database and the conference site being hosted by Sidearm. And for us, that's 95% of our opponents, right? Most of the teams we play are NCAA teams, so they're in the NCAA database. And most of the teams we play have Sidearm as their conference site. And so that works for almost all of our opponents. We play a couple NAIA teams where that's not quite the case. And, that is what it is. I would rather have all this automation done and super easy for most of our opponents, and then just deal with the other ones. And so that process isn't completed. And so let's go back and let's look at how it all came in. And so we're back here. And so now you can see it's updated from, I think it was Whitman before. Now it's Whitworth. So all the information is there. Everything is updated. And one little quirky thing is the dates come in formatted wrong. So I've just got a little thing to click and format date, and it's going to format those dates in a more easily readable format. And so I'm ready now. I can just print this off, and I'm ready to go. And you can see on the opponent side, it between that and if you add to do it for the home side as well, max 10 minutes from start to printing out the document. And it's super convenient, and it's just been super helpful. And so let's look at a little bit of some of the details of kind of what all gets pulled in. And so we've kind of got these team stats up here. So each of the home and away have their team stats for themselves and what their opponents have done against them. And then it's also divided in per game, so we can see that, kind of right up in here that we've scored 135 goals. That's 12.3 per game. Our opponents have scored 106 at 9.6 per game. So real easily accessible information. It pulls in, the coach's information, and it pulls in the rosters and the win streaks, and all that stuff just pulls it in automatically. We can see the schedules. It gives the opponent last six and next six right there. And then we see scoring leaders and points leaders, and this is kind of handy. It kind of gives us the information in two different ways. And so we've got our scoring leaders right here. And so if I want to know who my top 3 scoring leaders are, I look right there. It tells me who they are. But if I'm looking at a specific person, I'm looking at Shea Richardson-Pepper, I can see she's got a red 3, which I know that she is number 3 on the scoring leader for that team. And she's got a blue 2, which means I know she's number 2 for draw controls on the team. The other thing that's kind of handy is this right here, which is the approaching milestones. And so I can see that Kennison Turner is approaching a 50-point milestone, and Campbell Vincent's approaching a 100 career goal milestone, and as is Kenzie Heeman. And so that's just real handy when you're going through a broadcast and you know that someone's coming up on some number that they may reach. And right now, I think I've got it set to 10. So if they're within 10 of 50, 100, or 150 in points, goals, and assists, it will show up there. And so there's the home team in Shea Richardson-Peppers coming up on 100 points, and Clark Kiston, he's coming up at 150 points. So that's good information to have, and it's easily accessible, and I don't need to dig for it. It's right there. It populates automatically. We can also see it pulls in the conference schedule, or the conference standings rather, and the recent conference games. So I can real easily look and see who played who in the last couple days and what were the results of those games. So real easy to find that conference information. In terms of actual individual players, you can see that the number's real big, last name is real big, real easy to read, but it also has other information. I can see their first name, I can see their junior, their year, their position, where they're from. You can see right here, these are the pronunciations. So if I've been given a pronunciation, I have that information right there that I can then double check myself and make sure I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I have little goal and assist trackers right here. So each one of these I've got goals, I've got spots for 8 goals and spots for 8 points. And so as the game's going along, I'll just kind of fill those in. And that makes it real easy for me to track how many goals a person has so far. So if I'm looking at, Shea Richardson-Pepper and she scores a goal, and I know, okay, she's had 21 goals of the season coming in, and I can just check that one off. So the next time she scores a goal, I can look and say she came in with 21. I can real easily see that she's already scored one today, and I can do that math in my head, right? And so this is just been super helpful in calling games, and super easy to do in terms of how quick it is to get that data updated and go from I'm going to start preparing for this broadcast to having a printable spot chart that I'm ready to go. And I print these off in tabloid, so 11 by 17, and nice and big. I can read everything, and like I said, about 10 minutes from start to finish. And that's it, right? It's super simple. Super simple to get done. There's all the programming and all the other stuff is pretty complex. This sheet in itself is really complex. So I'm not actually doing it. I'm not pulling any data into the sheet. All that data is coming into the sheet from the Python scripts. It pushes it to various tables, and then from there, I'm manipulating where it goes and how it goes. But you can see all the sheets that are in this all the subsheets in this information. So much stuff. Like it gives me the ability. So let's go import PA home, and so this is where it's pulling in the roster information from our PA sheet, right? And this is where I can make some changes. So one of the things when you're automating stuff is like names come in one field. So Chris Sabato is one field. And how do I separate that in my sheet? I want to make sure that last name is big and bold and first name is a little small. And so it's like, oh, well, you just split it by where the space is. Well, that works most of the time. But for example, we have an athlete on our team, Jamie Hazeman Bowler. Hazeman Bowler is 2 words, no hyphenated. So if I split by the space, then it's going to screw things up. So this allows me to basically an override. And so I can say, no, this is actually what it needs to be. And actually it's in the wrong spot. So let's put that up there. And so that is there. And then, so I can override that name that has been split into space, where in this case there's 2 spaces, so it splits it 3 ways, and I can just override it and say, it's Hazeman Bowler, this is what it is. And that allows me flexibility. There's the ease of automatically pulling everything in, but I still have the flexibility to kind of customize some things and tweak things if they don't quite fit into what normally happens. So that's all I've got for you right now. I hope you found that insightful.